It is like breaking news and was either on the 5th of August and also on the 14th of August because there are significant dates in the life of the late Professor Jason Atakwe Adday. Adday na me di later can Professor Jason Atakwe Adday will be living in life UK or of Ghanaian descent now for a Ghana for now so living UK in the year 2023 and at Cambridge University fan Emma be a professor at Cambridge University or be one of the youngest black professors ever in the history of Cambridge University. Unfortunately, 5th of August, nice and sense my was a professor and resigned by force. Or resigning here. Now it's 9 days after your call in the was South London no. Now Professor Dawa in Kwabia Eninimu. I gossip 24. About saying, Master also be me a subscribe button so no work like a bell notification icon. So now follow you. Your Facebook, your Instagram, your also Twitter at gossip24.com and gossip24 TV. But my dear also be me a subscribe button so no work like a bell notification icon. So nyakupo sharp. Professor Jason Atakwe Adday AOB you won in the year 1985. 80 ma me no din komwe and as ma Professor Efimuno na ni age a eda so no 41 years old. Now Professor Mame Ghanaian just or a mental health nurse UK Monte so and a papa so chef UK Professor Wenyanom therefore right information it does. It was in the year 2014 and a professor warrior so in the year Tana and one Kwalamino as at the time and a professor Efri at as far as you know not in the area that's why now Professor Yawono no not a special child with special needs because autistic and Kwalai Ebi. There's a Professor Chimwa. Until be age 12 to 14 no na on to me enkasa na on bia na no kran ka de abe de af no to me kabida so it was between age 12 to 14 and on to me bia na no ekasa ye through therapy need support on the man no any ade age 18 and on akasa hu ye so sam to me chiro ekan ade o school and ye kaka hom so professor backgrounder one ma public na tiase no it was in the year 2015. Na professor ako school ama sambe die we do Liverpool University bu FNO Liverpool John Moore University ama say ho e na omo professor papers a ochoye edito mu say ubetumi aba be ye PhD nti ho no mo ma professor anaso mo award professor the doctorate degree in education omo de man no e John Moore University Liverpool John Moore University now Professor Jenny now Baba say in the year 2023 Cambridge University kese wo hui oma frɛ professor satana professor nya ni 40 years o oma tonsa dia frɛ professor say professor ye pese oba be ye professor Cambridge University now Baba child ye Cambridge University so in the year 2023 Cambridge for professor Jason Adday no now the youngest one of the youngest black professors ever in the history of Cambridge University. There's a professor called Piemu or chair sociology of education Cambridge University more education faculty no a professor there's a professor Asuma from 2023 my year 2026 now 27th of August 2026 and another professor a plan say or the book be what you about or no professor Jason Atakwe Adday in life babonti na book no watoni di Great and Unfortunate Things ankwade babonti on the 27th of August. It is our bookie Professor Aye who interviews bebre Professor Achemu say na ono on to me kasa until the 12th birthday and na say to me can there ama say nipa no oye ni therapist no aye surprise ma memu na aye surprise and na Achemu say ono we gane 30 marathons in 35 days. Or no, we're journey for 600 miles in 6 days. I'm on with the year fundraising for Eddie Rezi fund by 5 million pounds. What I say? I'm a professor at Chemu. So, not all a part of program B. I a friend is 7 up. Sa program no more monitor and call out with 7 years. No more the 14, 21. Sa or more monitor generations upon generations. And that's generations after generations, right? No professor no. Ever since someone now say no, say professor or Cambridge University no, we face a lot of smear campaign near attacks near there. One of them, say obi cry the prekoti, man ma memo, mo address or mutim, say etri. Now somebody come a local butcher be. Emma local butcher no and a twa preko nam no eton preko ti no eton ono professor no twice and obi aba omo faculty ho e Cambridge University I nipa na attacking on the second occasion there nipa na twe second word so e ka che ne say on resign for make house last month for serve Ghana for over 20 solid years last month for Sambi on person mo service no eba we event ase it is a birthday party bi na oye outdoor bi engagement bi eye bi na abafie function bi amoye bi amohia aduane caterers e wa ase de fashion last month for ensa wo canteen mo company bi warehouse bi ni ade factory bi na mo canteen na mo penkofo mo ba run canteen na say cafeteria and amawa and also last month for edi hoduma omo numbers in that screen so no for numbers no na for last month for no mo be serve kama na we ni beje eti professor ewa atwe mu so odi ni book reba abontin on the 27th of August no and a professor Bakubi, a friend of Professor Coffnance, right? Eba bonting. Na sa Professor Coffnance, oyobia na or Cambridge University. Cambridge University o school be a friend of Emmanuel's College. Na sa Professor Coffnance no, due to the controversy, ni se you see probe in semnia de antiquana, and Cambridge University, Edward Peno. Omo investigating ni ade no mu said ho son no mo sa so fa ne ba em. Na sa Professor Coffnance and a question the appointment of Professor Jason ARDAY say on what grounds and a Cambridge University jina so a omo dey employ Professor Jason ARDAY was it on merit and I say the appointment as a professor for Cambridge University no was on a political ground and Professor Coffnance shall say investigate Professor Jason ARDAY why of us so crab do level away do our Cambridge University honomo because on the na nitirimo ent no enti Professor Coffnance e share ni investigations ase no and o discover e say hey sana Professor Jason ARDAY enyoma o tro ye kra ye de award ni PhD no copy work na Professor Jason ARDAY ye it was in July 2026 it was in July 2026 and a Professor Coffnance a publish here our platform be a friend of Substack. It's all download this Substack now called Substack, right? Me am an ardent Substack user. Ukwa Substack, ubehu say it was on the 21st of July 2026 and a Professor Nathan Coffnance as some media or child here our university be our year Belgium ever since on Cambridge for falling out in almost as institute or child or Belgium. And the article we better Substack so. No, they better Substack no. And or compare Professor Jason ARDAY ne papers are or show ye di nya ni PhD in 2015 no to previous and as existing works say Professor Jason ARDAY no niti and or the year ni work no anaso copy or compare ye no who ye say Sir Professor Jason ARDAY copy Professor Bakubi a friend of Myers no work in the year 2009 in the year 2009 now so we screen this year Myers work no and a dahano and a Professor Jason ARDAY work no and a dahano right Professor Jason ARDAY then and a date near 2015 no and a Myers then and a date near 2009 no oh sure Myers sure said all those students teachers on one course in very large measure experience a common program. How they engage and learn from each component will be very different. Where am I is there? Oba ARDAY there now 2015. ARDAY Ababecho say all those students teachers on one course may experience a common program. How they engage and learn will vary dependent upon how they interpret the needs to be learned. As you can see, say Myers work, and a Professor Jason ARDAY afa, and a certain portions of Myers work, are copied dito, and a certain portions so there was somewhere they know I were honomo. Portion be our copy dito. Okay, Myers and Myers actually say student teachers are unique individuals and differ. Okay, ARDAY work actually student teachers are unique individuals and differ. Into Myers work and a Professor Jason ARDAY a copy be. Now we jab you on Myers work anymore. The obet me as some words no and answer expression no now was expression no. Eti Kofnan, a series of the portions of Myers' work now. Professor Jason Addy a copy and who was screen so. And a coffin as a chair say, sign number winner, Professor Jason Addy a copy. But only the first person will bring this to light. The findings, Amade who say, there is another Professor Emeritus, just or no, so no, or your investigations are no, or Plymouth, Major University, I don't know what Devon. Now, sir, Professor Inidi, Dr. David Harris. Now, Dr. David Harris in Podia, or Trauma University, no. Or Trauma University no in 2024 say was study Professor Jason Addy no works. Some of the publications of Professor Jason Addy make here in 2018 and I be also in 2020 no. Only say Professor Jason Addy a copy. Enti or Cambridge University adwin esi say sir professor we ni professor no kwa ofa so nya ye any ni paper scroll wa publish answer mo fa no mujina so de fan no. Se mo fan eduma or Cambridge University wa enye ye ondimu. These are examples of Dr. David Harris, or yeah, Professor Emeritus so the findings no. Right now, Dr. David Harris, Professor Jason Addy no work or yeah in 2018. And away Professor be a friend Rollock no work or yeah in 2012. Look at this. Ochemu say, Rollock work or yeah in 2012. Rollock try say, in this paper, I employ counter narrative to make visible some of the subtle aspects of racism in everyday educational practice. In particular, I seek to make a direct association between the tools of whiteness. Right? Good. Sawoba, Professor Jason Addy so a work in Emwa. Professor Jason Addy so actual say at this juncture within the paper and see whilst Rollock actually in 2012 say in this paper Professor Jason Addy as a son I know at this juncture within the paper I employ a personal whilst Rollock try say I employ counter narrative. Professor Jason Addy a polishing the say I employ a personal, but this part of Professor Jason Addy no work no one polishing also to make visible some of the subtle aspects of racism. It was the same thing that Rollock actually was saying. To make visible some of the subtle aspects of racism. Again, Professor Jason Addy a copy Hanomusu dito. In particular, I seek to make a direct association between the tools of normative whiteness. And the Emerald Rollock actually has said, in particular, I seek to make a direct association between the tools of whiteness. No, now it's a Professor Jason Addy a normative pair and or the action work anymore to make it look different, but ideally, no, or copy Rollock in the work from 2012 for an only paper published here in 2018. Not just that, interestingly, no, right? Dr. Harris say, on notice BB from Professor Jason Addy. Say Professor Jason Addy and copy Rollock keke. One say in Kofner's new observation, it was Professor Jason Addy copying from Myers, right? But in Dr. Harris' new observation, or when he say Professor Jason Addy copied from a lot of people, not just Rollock, but also from Hiraldo. And this is an example. Hiraldo in 2010, Professor Jason Addy in 2018. Hiraldo Kanye in 2010 said, in 1994, critical race theory was first used as an analytical framework to assess inequity in education. Since then, scholars have used critical race theory, in short CRT, as a framework to further analyze and critique educational research and practice. Where Hiraldo no work in 2010. Look at Professor Jason Addy. Professor Jason Addy FI Hiraldo no work no. I copy certain portions dito and made subtle changes. Where are the subtle changes? Baby, a Professor Hiraldo actually say critical race theory was first used as an analytical framework. No. Professor Jason Addy actually say CRT as a conceptual framework was first used as an analytical framework to assess inequity in education. So this Professor Jason Addy copying Hiraldo. All the paragraphs now who say yellow no dito copying. The green no the Professor Jason Adday a paraphrase here from Hiraldo. In Hiraldo's case no, Hiraldo tries to say CRT's purpose is to unearth what is taken for granted. Professor Jason Adday a paraphrase here no, or say this paper recognizes CRT is a tool as a tool to unearth taken for granted assumptions. Classic supercopier. And as I said, Dr. Harris, points out, say Professor Jason Adday. Even to the extent, say, Dr. Harris points out, say, Professor Jason Adday, no, sometimes, me copy on one kasanga. Now, was also a control. And this is Professor Jason Adday's work in 2018, as compared to a paper Professor Jason Adday published here in 2022, a year before, say, Cambridge for air pointing. Spot the difference. In 2018, Professor Jason Adday Troye, remember said the green part no, the Professor Jason Adday copy or paraphrase here. So the original work in 2018, which was even a copied work from Hiraldo Money Adeno. Or try to say, as a student who is a recent immigrant, my understanding of English is improving daily. As a result, sometimes I struggle to articulate clearly and accurately what I would like to say to the healthcare professionals provided at the university. For this reason, I prefer not to discuss any psychological issues as they will misjudge what I am saying and then heavily medicate me. Okwoti say, a female Asian B and a car some way. Or site or female Asian B a car some way. In the year 2022, Professor Jason Adday, and you see, this same in some kind in 2018, no, in the year 2022. However, in 2022, no, okay, say, see, as someone relatively new to the United Kingdom, my understanding of English is improving daily. Despite my improvements, I still struggle to convey and make sense sometimes of what others are saying. Sometimes I struggle to articulate clearly and accurately what I would like to say to the healthcare professionals provided at university. I am aware of the potential assumptions of my words and meanings, and so sadly, to avoid a wrong diagnosis, I just prefer not to discuss my psychological issues as my biggest fear is being heavily medicated, which would mean potentially not being able to work and having my visa revoked. Why in the council assembly in 2022 is Professor Jason Adday, but this time around, or can say, in Nipa or shares her experience, we know a female Latin American student. And a council assembly. So in 2018, the same thing, but it was said by a female Asian student. This time around, in 2022, the same thing, just paraphrase some parts of the text and attribute it to a female Latin American student. And the professor, Dr. Harris, Eka said, no, this is unacceptable. Cambridge, Ebani said, I'm one who's high number way. Right? And the Professor Kovnas, and the Professor Harris findings, no, Eka bomu, a question you say, it is our Professor Adday. You bet me, I can a real scholar. To the extent that Cambridge University will find a dream. At the Cambridge for a one. No, dear, from the position when he said Cambridge for an employee Professor Adday for political reason. Based on pro vice chancellor, no, a statement will make here a more for Professor Adday Ejuma Ediaba Cambridge, and that's someone announcing no, as a new professor for Cambridge, you know. And wait to some way diverse, wait to some way inclusive, wait to say or care about obedient ethnic race. So, and now Faculty of Education head no a kanye Hillary Kremin. Or also kanye say wait just say we diverse now Professor Adday a world class scholar. I just say obabe bois or babe chesa university no person mo tackle inequalities. Now Professor Adday so kasa or kind of crashes and pa indeed his appointment was more political. Just or say or baby breaky doors or maybe open doors for disadvantaged people and no munya access to higher education like Cambridge University. Any idea? Now was also where Kofna so was also coming across and your man obi our chance on the discrepancies of what Professor Adi ni papers ni mu pointing out to university no. University ekache sa ni pakono. Obeshase efi Dr. Rice Morgan. Dr. Rice Morgan a head of policy governance and integrity. Emma mo call Dr. Rice Morgan ni attention to the discrepancy of Professor Adi ni papers na otroye. Man ni nya ni PhD nempo after ni PhD no osaso tro bi kan wa Cambridge University gina so e dey fan edwuma no. Professor Rice Morgan kachire inipa no a omo hint no say oh wait there Professor Adi no oyeye ansa na ye fa na edwuma enti so obi wo ho no ma e wo so oye a UK Research Integrity Office no e na wo so mo ye sa research we what I say because omo na sa na mo we omo hwe enye omo Cambridge University there Professor Adi wa nya sa ade no wa bra omo fa na edwuma o Cambridge University inti eni within omo power say omo no be take action and as omo scrutinize the baby and the enyo edwuma no. Again, Professor Kremin, our head of education faculty, no, and so omo man a similar tip, no, or responding as oh, omo raising concerns, no. We invited Professor Adi over. I'm a Professor Adi Aba. I'm a Professor Adi appointed as one part. On no crown, we notice how discrepancies and as irregularities now when the papers no more. I'm calling on platform no publishing journal and also no so person pull it down article no making adjustments, no making changes any idea. Into Professor Adi cry ja to say ampa copy. But the academic can ya who and they say, see, also during our meeting, Professor Adi spoke movingly about his ongoing experiences of direct and indirect racism and the conditions that he was living in whilst the 2018 article was being published. At this time, he was early career and living away from home whilst dealing with significant health issues. It's your person just say Professor Adi no. And thrown out try one the articles not published here nimo in 2018 no. Now man for attack no go through a lot, no go through health issues. Enti na be a man copy and no yare wo copying ho. It's a conference say, sir response way, Professor Adi, and penny for more Cambridge University buying, or you will be an on Tiasen to my we are seeing you, and a conference my we are seeing now who here on the 21st of July 2026. Said you are no conference no, and a Professor Emeritus Dr. Harris mo a coming across Professor Adi no works, nam soma Cambridge University Friday, Juma or Cambridge on any we are seeing that in Tiahon. And a man for Shas here scrutinize Professor Adi. A man for Shas scrutinize Professor Adi, and Professor Adi resign from the Jumano, or Cambridge University. I can't so best so back. No, so back with him. To Wasi. Interviews now cry or question mark on the other kind. What say? Wo now won't casa. So would the age 12 with 12 birthday. And yes, sir.
Hello. And my mum's like, what did you say? Say again. And that was really the beginning.
Intro. Diedikai. Professor Adi classmates. There's already 40 years. Nidi Jonathan Stewart. Jonathan Stewart, I recorded videos into TikTok saying, hey, Professor Adi. So I can't no kasa one in Kuala Bemo bois. O kasa papa. Say hey kasa chim, Professor Adi. On him for no kasa. O kasa.
Jason ARDAY, you know. Man. He's moving wild. Listen, I knew it was a joke thing, and I knew it was fraud from man said he was a mute. What do you mean, bro? I went to school with you, bro. I was in primary school with you. You and my brethren nibs, class clowns, chatty patty, all the time, bro. What do you mean you was a mute? Listen, I knew it was a joke thing. You get me? The ARDAYs. This is what we used to call them, the ARDAYs. That man used to be like Michael Jackson and that. The mum, the dad, and his brother Joseph, they all had mini afros. All of them, bro. When I saw him in the picture and I saw long dreads look like extension tats, I was thinking, who's this? But yeah, bruv, it's bait. You should have known it was going to be peak for you, bruv. You should have known they were going to dig up. No one don't want to see you in that position. Joke, man. This got us looking mad now. Got us looking mad.
Now, not just Stewart, right? There was another junior of Professor Adi. And so we interview, no, also chemu. So, on the Professor Adi in the course school hit book. Now, Professor Adi Kasa. Why not say Professor Adi in Kasa? Professor Adi Kasa. Is there a Stewart ne time Professor Adi? Or Stewart no ye Professor Adi mates. Na or more ye senior. Or no Professor Adi junior. Professor Adi no Kasa. And that's how people say Professor Adi in Kasa. But then, there was one woman. There's a chira. Or no, now or supported Professor Adi and then the bar I friend Clark. Right? No, not yet. To the best of the knowledge, no. Sir Professor Adi Ekasaye and as ever spoke a word. It will be a man already age 14 to be age 15 more baby. And or Kaiser Professor Adi Kasaye. Professor Adi and Kasada. Kopim say or do sa age no. But regardless, not on to me Kasano. No, you involved in school activities. Or hit book honomo. About to say friend Freeman and see, oh, Professor Adi dear. Time and no more primary school one Kasasa kopim time will be 15, 14, 15 more baby. And or shall say Ekasai into Professor Adi Kasa no Kasai ampa. Eti that's a man for almost scrutinizing Professor Adi Nikley will make yes and on Kasa sa no didi 12 and I say 14, 15 years no. But they also scrutinize another thing that Professor Adi Kai say, or you're involved in 30 marathons in 35 days. After no journey 600 miles in 6 days. Emma Omodi year fundraising, a raises Kabebe £5 million. And Confo say intro. Emma to say, Professor Adi no also back. I'm back correct. Oh, and you're trying to old channel mom, maybe I have one chemu. Sir, your cast of Modi a fundraising is say crano. And no no journey 600 miles in 6 days no. No a part of a group, charity group be or more organizing race no. Why say no Modi raises her fans, but for legal reasons, you know, on to be in both charity group, you know, Edin. And a man for me says, okay, for legal reasons, over to me at any pakra or send a prekoti, a comma, oma, memufi. Emma would come out butcher nana. Professor DCO on to me cherry pakrono. No, business okay. Now report here no my police and because ever since claim say Professor Adi a copy amount for work in order the PhD babontino. Journalists reach out to Professor Adi. Emma Professor Adi reported journalists to police. 18 amount for business say. So to me reported journalists to police. And yet, supposed attack nearby also. Our campus said maximum be by also twice. Second occasion or trace kind or reporting my police now. Professor Adi see they be while reporting my police. Journalists so eshemu from Met Police. Our London Met Police for the statement by say Professor Adi anya reports beer of such amomo whether pre-continue almost send the corner mami fie no and now say obi she mask or to share so and also attack no our Cambridge University campus no there is no such report. In fact local butchers say what Professor Adi mami baby outsay Professor Adi chira omo de pre-koni koye no omo kokko interview omo no omo so see the bibia say see Omo kai bibiasa so be the prekoti baye. Enti police any record of Professor Adi ever reported so be send the preko kwode mami fie. Police any report of Professor Adi ever reported so be train so sekan e Cambridge University or more education faculty ho. Na so mo is Professor Adi tantro. Now so journalists be question no about the PhD papers or try or copy the Professor Adi akwa report e di ama police. Another thing almost as who said Professor Adi Chantro and he said Professor Adi the interview ahead of the publication of the book Great and Unfortunate Things no and came about on the 27th of July 27th of August no okay I say no a part of a program be my friend is 7 Up.
So I just turned 18 and I learned to read and write, and I was part of a program actually, which it doesn't really exist anymore, but it was called 7 Up at the time. And 7 Up is basically when they follow you over the duration of your life. So they follow you at kind of 7, 14, 21. And I was pulled up.
Now, what would name 7-Up program? A program be UK. There's our program we know, right? Almost steady and Crawford. Ebi a wuni bana 7 years. Na you study 14. Na you study. You don't go through. Sa na you study generation upon generation. Yawo Professor Addy in the year 1985. 7-Up program no almost started here. The first edition was in the year 1964. That means almost started 7-Up program 21 years before say Yawo Professor Addy. But here is a video of Professor Addy Orca say not a part of 7-Up program no.
So I just turned 18 when I learned to read and write. And I was part of a program actually, which it doesn't really exist anymore, but it was called 7-Up at the time.
But so a list of participants. Almost share 7-Up program no ase. Erane ya ba ya and was screeners no. There is nowhere Ubenwu Jason and I say Addy our list no emu. 14 participants no mudi almost say from 1964 omudi almost twaso at age 14, age 21, age 28 omudi almost say they be more than what age 70 omudi in the one out of the 14 participants Professor Addy edi enim. Now omoye 7-Up no new generation. Assuming say 7-Up new generation na Professor Addy ekanwa. That was in the year 2000. For that edition, there were 19 participants. And as of the year 2000, now Professor Addy was 15 years. There is no way he could have been a part of 7-Up new generation. And even, say, man, the benefit of the doubt, actually, the list of 19 participants are more 7-Up new generation in the year 2000 now. Professor Addy, Edin, and count. It is a number way na ba up. After say, almost citing say we're plagiarizing, we're copying your academic work, and then I'm so man the professor status no. After some man for calling me out, so we can't draw craft say or not on to me kasa or primary school. We need to be defending no. After some man for be calling me out, say o can't draw far. Racial attacks now or say a ban so my be cry poppy up on campus because there was nowhere. Or report my police. My police first make me a comment and say I'm part Professor Addy report my a police for deny categorically. So I report any such incident. Say the preko call them be few. Say this a kind ban is school. Nothing of the sort. And the man for also pointing out said there was nowhere, no a part of the 7-Up program. Whether the SARS here in the year 1964 and I say the new generation SARS here in the year 2000. Because the SARS in 1964, no, Professor Addy was born 21 years after. In the year 2000, the SARS, Professor Addy was already 15 years old and couldn't have been part of 7-Up new generation. In the time number way now, Eba be ye nimguasiye, Edema Professor Addy, Emma Chese, on the 14th of August 2026, NNDM, Omofeye, Sir Professor Addy Efrimo. Ewe fi otimo ewa South London. Enra enomo ye Professor Addy ni memorial ewa UK and Mountain so. Aha Gossip 24. Magraheb.